Tonight, Square Dance Callers Talking. I've got a gentleman. He's in California. We're going to find out where and more about him. Tonight, I have Rick Hampton. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Charlie?
Very good, sir. We've met a couple of times, had a little time to talk. But Rick,
Yeah,
where are you right now? Where do you live?
I live in Visalia, California, which is if you were to take a dart and throw it at a map, California's kind of long and curves. Throw it at a dart and it hit dead center, it'd be pretty close to where I am.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
not I'm not up in the crazy Bay Area
Mm-hmm.
or the crazy Southern California, but we're
Gotcha.
here in nice semi-rural agricultural based Central California.
Very nice. Now, were you born and raised there? Did you move there? Well, how'd that work?
I was born in Kingsburg, California, which is about 20 miles up the road from where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
I was not raised here. My formative years were in Venezuela, which is in South America.
Oh, okay.
I am one of the few callers that's trying to have an Okie accent that actually has a Venezuelan accent. I used to say. Um, but I was down there for almost 10 years, came back in 73. My mom passed away about 2.5 years after that. I got started square dancing in September of 73. And it was funny because when we were in South America, in Caracas, Venezuela, we had an opportunity to join a square dance group. And it was like, no way, you know. And then I got back, and some friends of mine conned me into it. Um, I didn't know we were going to do a square dance, but that's what we wound up at. And there were girls there, so I was okay. And started calling in February of 74, which is 50 years next February. That's what I said.
Now, what led you to that? Was it a particular caller, or why did you decide you wanted to be the caller instead of just a dancer?
Do you really want an answer to this?
Yes, I do.
I'm at an after party. My friends had taken me to the Square Rama, which was a festival in Fresno. And at the time, it was one of the largest festivals in California. And they had what they called a new dancer test area out in the back, because there wasn't levels then, on the back of the hall. And they drug my butt through all this stuff. And so that was Friday, all day Saturday, Saturday night. And then we went to an after party Saturday night. And I see all these cute girls, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous girls. They're 15, 14, 16, I'm 13 years old and I'm ready to go. And I see them just hanging around. A couple of young callers, one of which is the late Don Carlton. Uh, Trying to think who else was there. I can't remember, but there was two or three callers in my age group. And I thought, if those turkeys can do it, I can do it better. And that's how I started. For the next week, I went to my club caller, a fellow named Bob Halsey, who quit calling, oh God, decades ago. Um, and I told him I want to be a caller, and he gave me something on wagon wheel to learn how to do. And there you go. That was the end of it.
So the girls got you into it, and then a couple of caller influences, man.
Oh, well, they didn't know it.
Right. When
Yeah,
did
they
you
didn't know.
decide you wanted to, really start to learn the actual art of calling? When did you start going that direction?
Oh gosh, I don't know. The first party I do a lot of square dance parties now, and I call all the way up to C1. But I firmly believe, and we have to get folks into the activity. SSD is wonderful. Square dance parties are wonderful. All right. I went up. My mom and I, before she passed away, we went up to it was Lake Chelan, Washington, which is out somewhere by Wenatchee, Washington. And you have to get on this boat, this barge, and go like 2 hours on a lake to get up to this place. It was an old, I'm not sure what it was. It was a church camp, but it was an old mill, maybe an old wood, what do you call it? Wood cutting place. I can't even think what to call it. So
Um,
anyway,
I know you're
um,
talking
yeah, but they were one of the things they had in their brochure was that they had a square dance on Thursday night or whatever it was. But we found out that the caller had to go back home for something and there wouldn't be a square dance. So I'm going 13-year-old and cocky. I can call square dances. And I spent the next 2 days, and they have this big chalkboard in the rec center. And I'm just writing down choreography. Oh my gosh, I'm writing stuff down. circle left and Alaman left, do-si-do, and I got all this stuff. Oh my gosh. And it was a flip over board. I flipped it over and got the other side, and I'm pretending to dance it and everything's good. I go through their music library and I found a cassette that had about 5 minutes of music on it. I can call to that. And I was ready to go. And so that choreography I did lasted about 5 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5 minutes. And so it was after that I kind of figured I better start getting somewhere with this. Early on, oh, let's see. First national I called out was in '76, which was the big one in Anaheim. Prior to that, a friend of mine, Norm Crawshaw, who's passed away now, and I went up to Bill Peters, Bill Davis College School, and we drove up to that thing, and he was he was a caller that had worked pretty much off memory, and it wasn't something that he had jumped into, and I didn't, I just didn't really understand what was going on. But so went to that thing, didn't get a whole lot out of it. Came back, went down to nationals, saw, oh well, this is cool. Talked to some people, um, started working. Somebody gave me really want to learn how to site call here, and he handed me a piece of paper. And I'll never forget this site calling method. So what you do is you figure out who your primary and secondary couple are. Okay. Primary couple is going to be couple number one because that's easy. They're right in front of you. And the secondary couple is the couple with your corner. All right. So you call whatever you want to do. And now when you want to resolve, scary words, but when you want to resolve, you start moving them around until you can get your one primary couple paired up. Now you dance them around and around and around until you get that couple on the left end of a facing line. Cool. Call pass through and wheel and deal. Okay. So the sides are in the center, and now you're either pass through, square through three, right and left through, swing through and turn through, or swing through and turn through away from a corner. And I thought, oh my God, this is the greatest thing since peanut butter. Yeah, those were the good old days.
Yeah.
But, I just started going on and, went to my first Callerlab in Chicago. And I don't remember, it was either 83 or 84. I don't, probably 84, but about 10 years after I'd been calling. And went to a few, a few of the meetings and a few of the seminars and whatnot. Let's see, got my first club. Well, let me tell you, I got my first club. There was a caller over here in Central California, about 150 miles north of me. Her name, Jessie Sousa, and she was very popular, very good caller. And at the time, I was still working in musical theater. And we were up at the Fresno Memorial Auditorium, which is where this musical theater troupe was going. And I said, hey guys, I got to sneak out for a minute. I got to drop some flyers off. They were having a big anniversary dance. Now I'm a technical theater guy, so I'm wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, but they're not filthy, but they're by no means clean. Because I'd been crawling up ladders and aiming lights and stuff. So I was just going to sneak in the back, say hi to a friend, hand them the flyers. Well, I get there, and they said, "Rick, we need you to call a tip." And I can't call a tip. Look at how I'm dressed. He said, "No, don't worry about it. Jessie's not feeling well, and she just needs to sit down and rest for a few minutes. Would you please?" Okay. Now, here's an idea to all new callers. Always have your music with you, always, and your microphone, always. Never bring it into the dance. But in case somebody asks you, you've got it. So I went out to my car and got my 80-pound bag of records and my microphone, and I went in there, and there's like 45 squares at this sucker.
Jeez.
Holy crap, this is the anniversary dance of the biggest club in Fresno. And I'm going to call a tip, and I'm 15 or 16. Well, I had to be 16 because I was driving. Well, I guess I should have been 16 because I was driving.
Yeah.
So I called that tip, and it went okay, I guess. And I was getting ready to go, and they said, Rick, you're going to have to finish the dance. Jessie's going home. Turned out that Jessie Sousa had a stroke that night. So I finished that dance, too scared not to do well. No idea what I called. No, I couldn't tell you 10 minutes later what I'd done. But I did, my 8 best records, singing calls, and I did a little bit of patter and a couple, most of the tips were a couple of singing calls, and it was okay. And shortly after that, she's still alive. Dorothy Cardoza is her name now, but at the time she was known as Dorothy Rowe. And Leonard and Dorothy Rowe were two of the premier round dance cuers on the West Coast. Out of this club that they asked me to come call for as a result of this dance were also Eldon and Frances Drury, who became a couple other of the premier cuers in California. And I turned out okay, and we all came out of a little club in Madera, California, called the Madera Mixers. And that was my first club.
So, you start calling dances. I mean, you're kind of thrown into it.
Yeah,
with your records and all that. And I agree. I've talked to several people, and I've been doing it, 12 years or so. And it's just that bring all your stuff with you. And every place that I went to when I was starting, I would leave my record at the time, my record and my microphone in the car. And
absolutely.
I knew I was going to get invited at some of the places because I knew the callers quite well.
Right.
But I never walked in with any of my stuff, and they were like, "Hey man, where's your stuff?" It's in the car. I'll go get it and I'll bring it in. That's something big. Don't expect it, but be ready when it's there.
Yep.
And everybody I talk to, any advice you have for callers, man, that's huge. You have a background, not square dancing, in you were saying recording. What did you do outside of square dancing, as far as
broadcasting, actually, radio?
broadcasting? Okay.
But I got into radio via square dancing.
Okay.
All right. So I had at that same club I mentioned, the Madera Mixers. That was 76. So this is 3 years later,
Mm-hmm.
79.
79.
And one of the girls in my class worked for the California Employment EDD. It's the employment department. The people, if you don't have work, you go there and they try to find you work. Anyway, they were doing a thing at the park. It was some kind of big, I don't know what you would call it now, but there was an unemployment booth, and there was a health booth, and there was this and there was that and the other thing. And our square dance club had been asked to do a demo. And so we're out there, and I'm on the stage, and I'm looking down at her. I wished I could remember her name, but I don't. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And she goes, I said, "You should be dancing." I said, "What are you doing there?" "You should be dancing." And she goes, "Oh, I'm working." "Where do you work?" And she goes, "The employment department." I said, "Well, find me a job." And this is as I'm calling. And then after that tip, I walked down there and said, "What'd you get me?" She goes, "You want to be a DJ?" I said, "Sure. Why not?" Now, I was getting married. Now, check this out. I was getting married the following Saturday. And this thing was like on Sunday. I think it was Sunday following Saturday. So I went. No, I started. It would start the following Monday. So this was the Sunday, and then a week later from Monday. So I went and interviewed at this place, and I had no experience, nothing, nada, zippo. I knew what a microphone was, but that was about it. And they said, "Okay, well, think we'll give you a try." And I said, "There's only one problem. I can't afford to come here for what you're paying," because they were paying $575 a month. And I said, "Oh." They said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "I live in Fresno." That drive was about 25 miles rural roads. So you couldn't even get up to speed. And they said, "Well, how about you come up for $625 a month?" And I said, "Sure." So here I am. I'm now the highest paid disc jockey in the building. I know nothing. I'm getting married Saturday. I start work Monday. They said, "When do you want to come in and train?" I said, "I don't know, because it's a pretty busy week." So what we worked out was that I would come in after my Friday night. This radio station was in Madera, so was that first club I had. So I had my Friday night class in Madera, and it was over at 9:30, and we couldn't do anything until they were off the air. This was when the station went on the air at sunrise and off the air at local sunset. So I got over there about 9:15, and they'd been off the air for about a half hour, and Neil Grossman, who's a caller, he just anybody that has been around knows Neil Grossman. He passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in '85, but he was probably the most brilliant choreographer. Uh, well, here I'll give you an example. Neil Grossman influenced how Dave Stevens learned, and Dave Stevens is Brian Clark's mentor. You know who Brian Clark is?
I've heard the name. I don't know him personally. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So these guys are light year above anything choreographers. Anyway, so Neil's with me, and we're going to go over to the pizza parlor. I said, I got to go over here and learn how to run a radio station. So he follows me over there. We're in there, and the guy's showing me what to do. You take the record from the beginning here, and once you play it, you put it back here at the end. And that's all radio stations have music rotations. And I wound up doing programming and that was about as horrible of a music rotation as one could get. But at least you didn't play the same stuff over and over again. And so he showed me how to do the thing, and I reached over and I turned up. A way a control board works is they have knobs that send the music and the voice out to the transmitter and out to the thing. And then you got a monitor knob down here so you can hear what's going on. So I reached over to turn the music down so I could hear what he was saying. And he says, okay, but if you want to do that, don't do that. Turn that back up. I said, remember, that's going over the air. Now reach down here and turn this monitor thing down. Oh, okay, cool. Never turn, that goes out. If you want to turn yourself up so you can hear yourself better, or quieter. Here's the monitor thing. And then they had two cartridge machines, which are basically old 4-track. Remember the 8 tracks?
I do.
Okay, before there were 8 tracks, there were things called 4 tracks, and this is what radio stations up until about 20 years ago used. And yeah, about 20 years ago, I think. Nah, maybe a little longer. But anyway, and those things you had to stick them in, but you had to pull this lever, chunk, so it would bring up the capstan, and that way when you hit the button, it would play. If you didn't chunk it fast enough and you hit play, it would start the commercial with so anyway, so that 20 minutes of my training, and then Neil and I went to the after party, and we're driving back south on 99 back to my house in Kingsburg at the time. And I hear on the radio, the devil went down to Georgia for the first time ever. I pulled off the road and got Neil, get here, and said, this is going to make a great singing call. And then 4 years after that, I was producing square dance music.
Tell me about your record labels, man.
Oh, well, Fine Tune Records started in '83. Um, Probably about September. I don't know. I know it was after April of '83 and before December. Jay Henderson and I went into business and we founded this thing. And we found a band. Actually, we knew some band members. And so what happened was the Fine Tune band, because there was only Fine Tune at the time, was the same band essentially that Hi Hat with Ernie Kinney was using, that Rawhide was using with Dick Weibel. Anyway, this was the Fresno band. We all had basically the same band. We had a couple of players that they didn't have. We had a guy that played piano we had found in a bar, and he was just amazing. And then we had a violin, a fiddle player, because he wasn't a fiddle player. He was the concert master for the Fresno Philharmonic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he knew he could fiddle.
Yeah.
And so that was our band. And we recorded, I think, about four songs that first session. We did Pick Me Up on Your Way Down, which has been one of our all-time bestsellers. We did Picking Up Strangers, which was our first record out. Snipe Romp, which was a hoedown, and that was a rhythm track of a singing call we had made on that first session. We didn't release it early, but it wound up Buddy Weaver, when he was recording for us, put it out with a song called It'll Be Me, a Tom Jones song. And what was the other one? The other one was probably Song Sung Blue, which was yeah. No, it wasn't. It was Common Man. It was my first one. John Conley's Common Man. And so those were the first ones we cut. Picking Up Strangers, Common Man, Pick Me Up on Your Way Down, and then that Hoedown with the first four we released.
How many do you think you've done?
I actually know, and I don't know why I know, other than somebody asked me. I I was home. Maybe I was in the hospital. I do have some health issues, and I do wind up in the hospital a lot. So I just counted them up because we got this nice website,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got everything I've ever done there, plus a few things I've acquired along the years. I have been involved with the actual production and recording and all that mixing of all that stuff, about 290 songs. And I have producer credit because having purchased Happy and purchased Desert Gold on the 30 some odd that were there, and having purchased Ego and Alter Ego of the third 29, I think we got 29 songs in there. And about 80, let's see, we started in 83. I don't know, it was 86, 87. Um, Jay decided to leave the label, and a couple of the artists left the label, and they started GoldWing. Phil Farmer started
Okay.
GoldWing. Both of them are back on Fine Tune now, but anyway, Phil started GoldWing, and they produced 7 GoldWing songs, which are available uh, at the website. And since then, I've been involved with another over 93 songs on GoldWing. So it's about 130 on Fine Tune. There's about 110 on GoldWing. There's 80 some odd on SharpShooter, and whatever that adds up to is the ones I've produced, minus the 7.
I ask a lot of people when I'm doing these. I ask a lot of people, and this is going to be nearly impossible for you, probably. What's probably your top 3 favorite ones that you've done?
That I've done, me personally, or the label.
Well, if you had to say my 3 favorite singing calls are these, what do you think it is? Whether you've done it or something else you've
It
picked up on.
it changes
Mm-hmm.
because I am. If you tape my dance tonight and come back a year later, it's almost it's almost completely unlikely that the singing calls will be the same. The patterns might be. I would say right now, Center Field, which is one I recorded. I hate my vocal on it. I had a bad sinus thing, but I love the song, and I do that all the time.
Okay.
Um, I'm doing Wind Beneath My Wings, which Paul, of course, did on Ego
All right.
long before I took it over. And third favorite of the stuff of mine. Geez, probably Song Blue.
Song Blue.
Yeah, although I don't do it often. Now, if you ask me what I do a bunch of Ted Lizotte stuff from TBT.
CBT.
I do Shauna's stuff. Shauna and I are buds. She recorded, her husband Vic recorded for me, and then she joined the label. And then she asked me one day, "Can can I start my own label?" Yeah, I figured because I've been letting her kind of run sessions because she was into it, and so I do a lot of Shauna's stuff. Um, a couple of other ones that the when I buy records, or I'm fortunate I do get some comps, but obviously I do some rhythm things. I do some royal things, but I also do some stuff that I go to Music for Callers pretty regularly, and I just look and see, and I shop by title.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh look, there is like I recorded "Bad Time for Being in Love," which is a Grand Funk Railroad song. Okay, I happen to record that, but that'd be the kind of song I would see somebody did. And I'll buy it. I don't even listen to it. I'll buy it because of the title.
Title.
I am tremendously disappointed when I hear they've taken a song that's not a boom chuck and made it a boom chuck out of there. But I have contributed the $7 to $10 to the guy's label, and I know I'm probably not going to look at her label for a while.
All right.
But there's some. I honest to God can't think of the labels. They're newer labels, And they've got some decent stuff. Sounds of Silence. Take off Song Sung Blue and put on Sounds of Silence on Ego. Um, but oh my gosh, hold on a minute. Will this? Wait, I had to go there. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm
I don't know what you're looking at, but
I'm going to look at music for callers and tell you what that label is.
okay.
Uh, oh gosh, Arrowhead.
Arrowhead.
Ding
Ooh.
Singleton's label. I love some of his stuff. Um, I do a little bit of ESP. Elmer comes out with a little bit of different style than I like, but they just came out with a great pattern, and I'll be damned if I know the name of it. But it's an old traditional song. The label I was thinking of doesn't jump out at me. Huh.
A newer label. I can't think of a newer label.
Well, I mean, it's like newer. I mean, well, Shade's brand new. SD Bob is relatively new.
Mhm.
Um, Knee Deep is relatively new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but they had something, and it caught my eye, and while I was poking around their site for that particular one, I think I wound up buying three from them. And while it's not the way I would have done it, particularly, it wasn't boom chuck to death,
Mhm.
and it was I can't think. Bridge Over Troubled Water was one of the songs. That one is pretty. That one did pretty boom chuck, and I wound up. Unfortunately, it's not. It's just not my style. It's a fine piece of music, but it's not what I do. Um, I always have a dance beat, but it's not. It might be a tambourine. It might be sticks. You know, it's always something there. But as far as that boom, boom, sorry, yeah. Unless the original song was a boom chuck. In that case, I have no trouble boom chucking. What I try to do is I try to make what we do close to the original as possible and still yet danceable. So that's what I try for, whether it works or not. I don't know. It's about 40 years later, I'm still trying to sell records, so I guess I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I'm doing quite well. Yes, sir. Yeah, I talked to Dean not long ago. He's got some really good stuff. I haven't listened
I
to a
can't
whole lot of it.
I apologize, Dean, because I do a bunch of your stuff. I do Get Ready for Here I Come, which is
Mhm.
Temptations and or I can't think of the other group, and he just put out one. It was a George Harrison song. Can you tell I'm not good with names of songs? Anyway, he's got a great cut on a George Harrison song he's put out in the last 12 months.
Okay.
So, anywho,
Anywho, so you're calling in. You got your own label. Have you done a lot of traveling and calling? Where have you
I
been?
had two times in my life I have. That was back in the early to mid 80s,
Mhm.
actually early 80s to 90s. Um, and my first daughter was born in 88, and I was still traveling a little bit. But that was back, I would used to get in my van and I would go drive, and I'd drive and be gone for 3 weeks. And then our second daughter, Cassie, was born in 90. And about 91, I realized I can't be doing this crap. We have to afford diapers, so
Yep.
that's when I went into radio full time, and had been then stayed in radio full time from 91 to 2002.
Okay. I ask a lot of people this too, and you would have more with broadcasting. If you're not listening to square dance music, what's your favorite genre? Do you have one?
Anything but country.
Okay.
The vast majority of my radio career was playing country. I
Mhm.
was on number one country stations throughout the Central Valley. And we're talking, these are powerhouse radio stations. KMAK was Fresno's number one rated state, not number one country station. It was Fresno's number one rated station. They happened to play country. I was at KJUG, which is in this area, the Visalia Tulare area, which is the number one station. And oh, they happened to play country. Um, so I played, I was on the air most of that time. went from country music to talk radio, which was nice. Um, but it was just playing these things over and over again. I was, on the air 6 days a week, depending on what station it was, 4 hour to 6 hour shifts. And the music would rotate about every 58 to 65 minutes. And it's just, I just can't do it. That doesn't mean that occasionally, if I'm with my wife, we'll listen to country. But what I listen to is Sirius XM.
Okay.
I listen around. I listen to deep tracks a lot. I am listening to pop tracks, something like that, and the blend, both of which have a lot more recent pop. And I'm kind of forcing myself to do that to hear if there's anything that intrigues me as a square dance. So
Always on the
I
hunt. Always on the hunt for
well,
another song.
yeah, to a degree.
Mhm.
Of course, I have a large staff. A lot of people, if you record for me, um, some labels, I won't mention them, some labels will say, "Here, Charlie, here's your song." And you go, "Yes, sir." Okay. And a lot of people are paying for that privilege. At my label, it's, "Charlie, what do you want to do?
Right.
Come up with three titles." Okay. All right. So I look at Music for Colors Clearing, or the publishers, our clearinghouse, check there, check if it's licensable, check if anybody's done it recently and had a big hit with it, check if it's somewhere in the 110 to 130 beat per minute range. Um, check that it's in 8, 16, 32, or 64 count breakups. And anyway, and so that some of them, a lot of good songs get tossed. But finally, we'll come up with something. And I'll say, okay. And then so what we'll do is we'll have Jimmy McDonald, who's been my music guy for 17 years now. Pat Carnathan turned me on to him, by the way,
Okay.
Shakedown Records. Um, I just now I've worked with Jim long enough that I don't have to go down there to get the what we call roughs done. I say, "Hey, I need you to cut me up something for a rough," and then he'll cut up the original song at the tempo. He'll email it to me. I'll listen to it. Yeah, go ahead, and then he'll create a rough. And this thing is 100% MIDI music. There's nothing real on it at this point. But that's because at that point we can cut and paste if for some reason the artist wants to do it in a slightly different arrangement.
Mhm.
We can, oh, this is a little low for my taste. We can just go in there and raise the pitch. And no harm, no foul. It sounds just as good as the original MIDI did. Okay. Because these are all variables that you can change in MIDI. Once the artist, Charlie, says, "Yeah, I like the cut, I approve the cut, and I approve the key," then you'll start practicing to that rough. You'll start singing to that thing. Jimmy and I will start changing the vast majority of those MIDI instruments into real instruments. Not
Mhm.
all of them get changed, okay? The drum kit remains MIDI in most cases. Occasionally I use Jimmy Mac's son as a drummer. I've also used Ty Barnes, who's not really involved in square dancing, but he's a friend of Pat Carnathan's and was the drummer for the Shakedown band.
Okay.
And I've used Ty a couple of times, and I've used Jimmy's son. And then Jim goes in and cuts everything but the melodies. And I listen to it and I approve it. About this time, Charlie said, "You tell me your track's done." Okay, cool. You record it at a studio. We don't record in hotel rooms. We don't record live. We record in a studio. Patters, we haven't done any vocal patters. I would probably record patters live with dancers, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But we record our vocals in the studio for the best quality possible. And also the people that are learning these things with these roughs, they've been working these figures out with their dancers at all their dances. So it's not by no means not dancer untested. It's very much
Wow.
dancer tested,
Right.
but we do it for the audio quality. We like to be able, somebody can listen to it. And anyway, you Dropbox me a WAV file of your vocal, and then we go down, Jim and I will go down in the studio, and then we lay your vocal in, and Jim starts playing the leads, aka the melody, around you. So many times, guys will say, "Boy, I wish I didn't have that guitar there because I could, yodel or whatever. And well, if you happen to yodel, we won't play the guitar there. So, and we also run everybody's vocal through a processor. We don't auto tune it because those sound really, they really sound like us. But it is something similar to auto tune, but it is just marvelous at how well it works.
Okay.
So that's how we do it.
I appreciate that, Rick. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot. I know very little about the production part of it.
Weren't you one of my?
That's just
Weren't you
amazing.
one of my? How long? When did you start calling?
2012, 2013, right around
Okay,
there.
I'm thinking of somebody else then. We did that original SharpShooter Youth Music Project, and I was thinking you were one of the subscribers, but that's a couple of years after we did that. So
Yeah, no, I started, like I said, 2012, 2013. Probably didn't start buying music, and it was still records in that little window there
yeah,
around 2014, 2015. And then, it was all old records that callers would give me in passing or whatever. And
I have a couple of thousand in the garage. Would you like some?
I'm
Here,
fine now.
listen. You want to hear something funny? Here's
Yep.
this. How this happens to me, I'll never know. I had a couple of thousand records in my garage, and also another at least 2,500 of fine-tune and GoldWing product that we had switched to MP3s by now, and it's just stuff sitting out there. Every now and then somebody would call me up and say, "Do you happen to have?" But it's like, okay, I'm getting rid of this crap. So the fine-tune GoldWing stuff, I took one of each and I threw it in with my records, the thousands of records I had that I had bought, and I threw one of each of the fine-tune GoldWing stuff in there. And then Len and I had a dumpster party with that stuff, and we're just chucking these boxes of fine-tune and GoldWing stuff into the thing. And so I put out a thing on Facebook. I have got all these records, and I'll give them to anybody. And I was announcing it in my dance stuff. And this fellow here in the area who had thought about becoming a caller came and he says, "I'll take them." And I said, "You can have them. Come by and get them." And there were, you know what, oh, I don't remember the number, but like a file box about that big, 12 by 24 or something like that. They're 12 inches wide, so you can put albums in there. I found that 12 inches wide by the whatever that was, I could put 45s in this direction, and they were just stacked. Those there was about 20 of those boxes, and I told the guy, "Just get them out of here. They're yours." And he insisted on paying me, and I said, "I don't want to be paid," but he paid me a little bit per box. Okay, cool. They're out of here. I took my wife out to dinner with $100 or whatever we'd got, and then that was probably 15 years ago, and the local association, the acting local association president, Donna Matthews, she called me up here, I don't know, 4 years ago, and said, "Hey, there's a fellow whose wife called us, and he was a new caller, and she wants to get rid of his records. Will you take them?" And I thought, oh, great. But I figured, maybe I could get him over to the Callerlab thing, but I don't want to, all right. And I was curious. Okay, let's see what's in here. Because there are a few things that are not, have never been released on MP3. So I go over there, and it turned out it's the ex-wife of the guy that I gave all my music to. Guess what I got back? Except now it's alphabetized, and she gave me a turntable, this gorgeous digital turntable, and she tried to give me an AC 200, which I just no, thank you. I've got enough of those things in my garage as it is. And so anyway, they're back in the garage. Joni Michaels out of Albuquerque was a new caller. She's still using records, and we tried to get some of those over to her, but we just couldn't figure out how to physically do it. And Joni, if you're listening, come get these damn things. Anyway, so that's what I know.
That is
I
really
named. See, have I name dropped everybody I need to?
I think so. Okay,
Oh,
good.
sorry, driver Oxendine.
That's where I got into it. I mean, I started picking up on record labels when the internet started getting a little bit wider with it, with the websites, music for callers. When I got turned on to that, then I just went away from records completely because you can't buy them anymore. I bought a lot from Bob Schreiber, A&S Records.
Bob was such a
For,
good guy.
I
He
first
was
started out, man, I bought so much from that guy.
he was my official distributor for all the labels to create CDs.
Okay.
Because every now and then again, he'd get an order for a CD, and you go ahead and make the CDs. In fact, if anybody tries to buy a CD from me, I'll steer him to you. Bob was just a wonderful man.
Yeah.
He was so cool. We lost him 3 years ago.
Something like that. Yeah.
Or maybe it was COVID. It might have been before COVID. I don't know.
I talked to him several times on the phone years ago when I first started buying records because it was the only place I knew of at the time.
He would find you that
Yep,
record.
he would.
Find it. You could play. I'd like the kazoo marching band rendition of blah blah. Okay, give me a couple of days. He'd find stupid thing.
Yep.
It's crazy.
So calling in California for the most part and everything else, do you have any venues, any locations that really stand out to you as something you enjoyed, anything unique?
Hayloft Barn in Massachusetts.
Hayloft.
We tend out here to dance in schools, church halls and stuff. My Monday workshop is in a funeral home's reception hall. Nice hall, air conditioned, everything. It's a funeral home. I don't consider that one of my favorite halls, but it's not one of my least favorite. Square Eight's Hall in Hanford is was a dancer built, dancer run hall. I call for the Square Eights. They were Ernie Kinney's club for years and years. I took it over when Ernie retired. And that hall had some structural things go wrong with it. So the Square Eights, the club, sold that hall, and the guy we sold it to rebuilt it structurally and fixed it up inside. And we'd been bopping around from hall to hall around here. We really hadn't found a home. And one day when the guy was coming to make his monthly payment on buying the Square Eights hall, we said, "Can we rent it from you?" So we're back in the Square Eights hall now, and it's a nice hall. It doesn't have a wood floor as its biggest drawback.
Okay.
Let's see. Oakdale Grange Hall is the hall we use. That's up in just east of Modesto, California. A lot of the good old halls down in Southern California, they're all gone now. I can't think of one. I may be wrong, but I can't think of any of the old good time ones. Most of the good halls are gone.
Okay.
But I tell you what, anybody, if you ever get to Sturbridge, Massachusetts, you've been there.
I have. Sturbridge is fantastic.
And you get an opportunity to call at Hayloft. That thing is gorgeous.
It is.
They have the stage faces the kitchen area in the back, which is separated by a table and seating thing. Now, to my right, the caller's right, there's a bunch of air conditioners sticking out of the door there. And there's gorgeous wood floor, just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm there one time. This is back in probably 2015. It was either 2015 or 2018. Those were the last two times I was back that far. I started getting sick after that. But I'm hearing some noise. And I look out the windows, and all I see is it rain or is it hail? I'm not sure, but it's going sideways. It's not coming down. It's going sideways. And we get outside after this passes, and to get into the Hayloft facility, I don't remember the name of the road, but there's one road it's on, and you can either turn right out of the thing or turn left, and it'll take you out to the main road. Well, turning left, here's this tree thing crashed down. It's just, you can't get that way. And then some farmer got a tractor, and they got, anyway, but we kept on with the dance, and oh gosh, Judy Eckert was the person I worked with at the time. She's awesome people. I guess Richard, her son, is doing it now, but yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, that is a tremendous hall. I love that. I've been there once. I went to the caller school, Ken's caller school up there, Ratusi. And
Ratusi does, old Ratusi, AC Ducey Ratusi does a pretty good caller school. He comes out this way does one occasionally.
He
He's
does.
got he's got the Northeast Caller School, and I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think it's him and Bill Harrison, and I can't think of the third person.
This year it's
Remember, I'm 3,000 miles away, so what do I know?
Bear Miller and Tom
Bear
Miller.
Miller and Tom Miller.
I
That's
think
right.
Tom this year.
The Millers
The Millers, yep.
zeroed themselves out. That's right. Tom Miller. Now there's a good caller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ken's a good caller. Ken's an excellent teacher. Bear, I've only know Bear from Nationals. He's a nice guy. He sounds pleasant. He did record a couple of things on GoldWing for us. He recorded Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show, and he did one other one, and I'll be darned if I know what it was.
Yeah, like I only get to run up on Bear at Nationals usually because he's being in Georgia and him in Colorado. There's very little running into each other other than Callerlab or a national convention.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Callerlab Nationals, USA West, that kind of thing.
I get to see Tom a little more just because he's down in this area now.
I talked to Tom a fair amount on the phone this last couple of years, mainly because we were both sick. So we would commiserate with our horrible physical conditions. But,
well, it helps to have somebody like that for sure.
Well, it turns out we're probably going to live, so that's good. And on my doctor, my two of my doctors, my surgeon and my main doctor, I will walk in there, and they're both ladies, and they're younger than I am. They're probably in their mid-40s, so they're cool. But it's like, why aren't you dead? I heard you in the hospital again. What are you doing here? How come you didn't die? I don't know. I tried. Sorry. I'll tell you who the best nurse in the world is.
Okay.
Shauna Carey.
Shauna Carey.
Yes, she. When I was having my liver transplant, my wife and Shauna, one of those two were there 24/7. Literally. I mean, there was times that somebody wasn't there. Of course, Vic came in and friends came in, and it got to the point where they had given them the things to wear and stuff, and from the back they had similar hair dye, and I was kind of half out of it, so I didn't know which one was there half the time. But yeah, no, that's one. Actually, Sean and I started becoming friends, and we'd worked together prior to that. But she was just part of my life-saving team, and she's one of my best friends. So that tells you something.
It is. Sean is really fun to talk to. I've had the opportunity at convention.
I watched your podcast with her. It was hilarious. Yep. And I forget what the great reveal was, but it was the David May story.
Yep.
Yeah. And here's one she didn't leave out. David was coming down, and I honestly don't recall if he was going to do a vocal for Shauna's label or if he was doing a background vocal for mine. But we were both in the studio. This is Jimmy Max, and I had come up with I had Jimmy find a karaoke version of "Tie a Yellow Ribbon" on the internet there. So he's back there in the studio, and he's getting ready to circle left or whatever the heck he was doing, and we put on, of course, "Tie a Yellow Ribbon." So that was my little tiny part of that conspiracy. And this was within the last 10 years.
Okay.
This was, and David's old now, so this was not when he was in caller school.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's over. I think he's older than 50 now. Yeah, he's getting up there.
Getting up there. We all are.
I'm 60. I'm 63 and still one of the young callers, and that's just frightening. Yeah. Gosh, we need new callers. The brand new callers, they're in there pushing 40. Justin, Hunter, Ashley Parker. I can just say, when I first started calling, I could rattle off probably 40 new callers' names and not hit anywhere near all of them. Mm-hmm. Now I rattled off 3 recent new callers, and I made a pretty good dent in how many there are.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Frightening.
It is.
Let me preach a minute. You guys that are fighting SSD.
Yeah, all the time in the world, brother.
You guys are fighting. Anybody that's still fighting SSD, do us a favor. Either get with it or just get out of the way and retire. Have your club full, whatever. Get out of the way. It's not going to work. September to whatever, teaching full plus just doesn't happen. Now, is September to whatever mainstream possible? I'm not going to say that's impossible because it's not. Uh, but a more practical thing is do this 12, or if you need 14 weeks, use 14 weeks. If you can do it in 10, great, do it in 10, whatever. Take this concept of having 3 or 4 starts a year. And remember, right now we are losing 70 to 80% of the people that take our class. We lose them. SSD it's an endeavor to keep those people in square dancing, not in mainstream, not in plus, not in, but to keep those people square dancing. Okay. And there's going to be that same 30 to 40%, 20%, whatever it is, that want more. And by gosh, go up and approach those people and say, I've got a mainstream class on Thursday nights. Would you like to come? Don't announce it over the microphone because those folks that don't want to do it, but you know who in your group wants to move on. Okay. All right. And you can do those, check it out, 14 remaining mainstream calls. All right. How long? You just did 54 in 14 weeks, let's say. So how long is it going to take you to go from really well trained, almost mainstream dancers to extremely well trained mainstream dancers? What, 20 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you do that, if you work with the SSD, get people into the activity, be sure, for goodness sakes, that you provide dancing for them. Concurrently, the people that want to do more, steer them to where they can do more. And here's the worst that's going to happen. Your mainstream club over here on a different night is going to get bigger. You're going to have a bunch of people. Bo, shut up. Okay, you're going to have a bunch of people. That's my daughter coming in from her lunch break and my dog greeting her. A bunch of people over here in SSD who are going to enjoy square dancing, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe 4 times a year. Who cares? They're in square dancing. There's people in your mainstream club. A certain percentage of those mainstream people might go into plus and up the food chain. But that percentage of people that's going to do that up the food chain, it doesn't change. The difference is we are keeping a big part of that 70 to 80% that we are walking out the door, throwing them out, and the next time we run class, they say, "Oh, I took that class. It was horrible. They just pushed us and pushed us. It was just so, you know." Now they're saying, "Oh, I love square dancing. I'm in a group that meets once a month." Yeah, you should take that. You know, we can have so many more cheerleaders for this stupid activity if the activity was smart enough to embrace it.
Okay.
That's what I got to say.
That's really good. I appreciate that. And I look for that, and you gave some already advice for new callers, and like you said, there's not a whole lot out there that you can name, and the ones that you can name are getting up into the 40s, getting up there, age wise. But that's really good. The SSD is strong, and it's certain parts that I've seen in the United States, for lack of a better term. Really,
SSD, where people are actually doing it, is doing wonderful.
yes, sir.
Of the places that it's not doing, they say, we're going to do SSD, and then they're going to run 12 weeks. And let's say they only got 6 people that first time. Well, we'll just shove them up into our mainstream class. Okay, they drop out. Nothing's changed. The smart people take those 6 people and help them recruit so that the next 12-week thing has those 6 and, let's say 7 more. All right. And the third one, we're going on 36 weeks. Third class has 3 more. Guess what? In 36 weeks, you added 2 squares, 16 people to the activity. Meanwhile, the mainstream class over here graduates 2 people. And they don't do that for another 12 weeks. You doing SSD, Charlie?
Yes, sir. We just finished an SSD, and after we finished the SSD, we decided they wanted to do a refresher plus. So I just started that. I think we're going to go 8 weeks with that, and then we're going to go back to another SSD. That's my club president's really big on it, and so I was like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, I'm with you." So
Any
we do the
and
SSD.
I assume you're giving those SSD people something to do in those 8 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that
Cool.
we're still we had
That's
now,
cool.
the way we do ours is we dance every Thursday,
Okay.
and so from currently what we do is from 6 to 7 we started doing the Refresher Plus class, and then
Okay.
from 7 to 9 is our dance. So our SSDs can come in and they do the 7 to 9 with us, and I do tips. I do SSD and Plus as opposed to mainstream and Plus for the most part,
Right.
depending on who's there. But we just took that Plus class and just tacked it on the front. That way, the SSD people can still come to the dance. They just come in at
Yeah.
7 instead of 6.
Okay, yeah, and it hasn't affected their lives any. And I can certainly understand because a lot of people, I mean, ideally, do SSD here and do your mainstream do SSD on Tuesdays and do your mainstream on Wednesdays. But ideally, I know that that's not always the most practical thing. We're not stupid here. Try for the best, but give it what you can.
Yep.
The Hanford group, the Square Eights I mentioned before, we tripled in size since starting SSD,
That's
and
good.
the percentages are just about the same. Actually, the people that are wanting to move on is actually a little bit higher than normal. We've been running about 50% wanting to move on.
Okay.
In San Luis Obispo, which is on the central coast of California, you ever heard of Pismo Beach? It's basically there.
Okay.
Okay, uh, we started with nothing. Uh, they wanted to try SSD as a way to help their Sunday dances survive. And the few plus dancers that were there all agreed that they would dance SSD. And so we're a year into that. Year 22, yeah. I had to think there. Year or 18 months. We're a year into it. Oh, we took the summer off. Yeah, so yeah, we're 12 months into it. And we went from 0 to 2 squares. Okay. We are starting we're starting day after tomorrow again. We did take the summer off. I personally am not a big fan of taking summers off, but whatever. They did, to their very much credit, continue having their Sunday dances throughout the summer. So those guys went. They had at least once a month to do it. So obviously, we're going to find out who shows back up this Thursday. Hopefully, yeah. So anywho, well, Charlie, it's been fun, man.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Rick. Now, you've lived in California for the better part of your life, and then you lived in Venezuela.
Yep, I'm
You-
just
you-
adjusting myself here.
yeah. So, in the podcasts are about you for the most part, and who I'm talking to. If you could choose to live beach, mountains, prairie, or desert, where would it be? Or plains?
Not taking into account the fact that beaches are so tremendously horribly expensive. Beaches.
Okay.
My wife Lynn, inherited a house not on the beach but on the Central Coast,
Okay.
and we're afraid to move over there. It's just that the cost of living over there is just so crazy. So her sister's
Yes.
living over there for now, and we stop by and see her occasionally. I may wind up on that beach after all.
Well, good idea. Good idea. So, do you have any big things coming up? Any kind of weekends or any things other than conventions or anything?
Right away, we got the. Hold on a minute. I'm going to make you go away again for a second.
All right.
Um, oh, and of course, this is the laptop that doesn't have it. It's a weekend I do with Randy and Lorraine Pratt. It's a plus an A2 weekend, and it is in. How do I make you bigger again? That way? No, that didn't do it. Oh, there you are. It's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the
Oh,
Square
nice.
Dance Center there, and it's not this Friday. It's a week from Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's plus with A2 sessions and rounds, and we just have a good time. It's the second year we've done that, and we'll decide whether it will continue this year or not. We've got more people pre-registered than we had actually there last year. That's always a good sign.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but there's also some other things that um, are playing in there. So we've got a thing in the back of our minds. It needs to be at this level, and hopefully it
Okay.
will, and we will continue that. Um, I'm going to go see Al Stewart in concert next week.
Okay.
He's the guy who did Year of the Cat.
Yeah. Okay.
We saw Chicago in concert. Len retired this year. Since then, we've seen Chicago in concert. We're going to go see Al Stewart. We flew to Tennessee to dance to Steve Kopman and Joe Sawtelle with an A2C1 weekend there in Knoxville. I told Len, we had some airplane credits that I had to use up. I was not able to go to nationals because this last nationals was unable to schedule my dialysis against their convention needs. And what it turned out to be, I would have flown there and I would have only done literally one tip because I had said I cannot work daytime Thursday or daytime Saturday, but I guess they misunderstood it. It's the only thing I could possibly assume is that they heard I can't do Friday, load me up on Thursday and Saturday. Well, they had me and I couldn't do it. I had to get dialysis. So we took those airline credits, and Lynn just looked around, and we finally found a couple of possible places, and we decided on the Tennessee one because my cousins live near there, and one of her brothers lives in Nashville. So we went there. We saw my cousin. Only one of my cousins was able to come, but I hung out with my cousin and just had a great time. And then we danced the 3 days, and I danced. That's the most dancing I've probably done in 5 years, and it was at C1. And I have to say, I did marvelously.
I'm sure you did.
The folks there were tremendously impressed with how good I was. It was just really amazing. Then, yeah, ask Steve Kopman. Joe will lie for me. Ask Steve. And then we went to Nashville, and at this point, I had pretty well pooped out. So she went and walked on down Broadway down there. I did get up, and I've never ever can say I've done this before. I was paying $30 a day to park the rental car that I was renting for, I don't know how much a day. I think it worked out being about $100 a day. And then we went down to go eat and had to pay $45 to park there. So for one car, one single day, I've got $175 in this stupid thing.
Oh gosh.
If we ever do anything like that again, we're going to do, I don't know what, but we're not doing that again this Thursday. And then I've got my Hanford group. We're starting in October. It's just kind of how, because we go year round. So we're slowly getting off the old cycle. Yeah, that'll be some. Yeah, that's what I got going on. Got some new in studio. We got some new stuff.
Got some new stuff coming out. Okay.
Yeah, we have a Christmas song. If my unnamed artist will get off his tail and record the vocal, Ray. Oh, did I say Ray? Ray? No.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we got a couple things coming out.
All right, Rick. Well, man, I guess hopefully I'll run into you at the next Callerlab if you get over that way.
I kind of think I have to be at that one because that will be my 50th year of calling.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it turns out that the only Callerlabs I miss or anything or USA West or whatever, only thing I miss are in Reno.
Yeah.
I'm fine at the other ones, but if it's in Reno, I wind up in the hospital. So who knows?
Well, it's not this time.
I'm on a two kidney transplant list, and a kidney would be really nice because that would make my life just a whole heck of a lot easier. Sure. And I would be able to travel again. Well,
hopefully that'll happen for you pretty soon, brother. And I will see you either at Callerlab or somewhere down the road. Rick, it has been a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything you got going on medically, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you got coming out of the studio, music-wise.
Okay.
And I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Okay, Charlie. Take care.
Good talking to you, Rick.